Hello and welcome to the African Descendants Forum. My name is Edwin Baker. Today, we're pleased to speak with the talented contemporary artist Rio Duma. She hails from Huddersfield, specifically the Deaton and Sheepridge areas. Rio's journey is one of resilience and creativity, shaped by her rich cultural heritage and personal experiences. With a passion for the arts that began in childhood, Rio has emerged as a powerful advocate for young creatives and those from underprivileged backgrounds. Her work reflects her quest for understanding her cultural roots and addresses pressing issues such as youth violence and environmental challenges through the lens of creative practices. So join us today as we explore Rio's artistic journey, the community projects she's involved in, and her vision for inspiring change through the arts. Welcome, Rio, and thanks for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
So can you share a little bit about yourself, your upbringing in Huddersfield? I understand your father's from South Africa, so you have some South African roots. And how those roots have influenced your artistic practice.
So, born and raised in Huddersfield, specifically, mainly the Deaton and Sheepridge areas. And on my mum's side, she's from the Caribbean, she's from Grenada. And majority of, my immediate family members are here. On my mum's side, it's like grandma, granddad, aunties, uncles, I've got a couple of generations that are all here. But with my dad's side, it's very different when it's just my dad, and then some of his close friends, that we consider family. But like my grandma and granddad, my aunties and uncles, his brothers and sisters, etc. They're not here, so it felt like a little bit of a disconnect growing up because my grandma lives close by, only in Fartown. My uncle's running around the corner, my auntie's around the corner. Like, everyone's very close by, but my grandma in South Africa, she's not just a 5-minute drive down the road or a couple walk down the road. It's quite far. So growing up, I did feel a little bit of a disconnect, and I almost felt bad because it's like I can't speak the language. There is a little bit of a language barrier, not a significant one. The last time I was there was in 2016. So growing up, I always wanted to be involved in the culture, like the dancing, the performances. Dad's done a lot of that. For many, many years, for as long as I can remember. So just being involved in it is something that I've wanted to get close to. And with me studying art, it's a beautiful culture, and I've wanted to explore with it in a creative way. And just kind of use it as education, really. I think that's a lot of where my work stems from. It's either something culturally, or it may be like an environmental thing, or something. It's always something in relation to something that's going on within my life, whether it's like a significant moment, or whether it's like a cultural or heritage, or whether it's like my environment and where I've been brought up. But I always like to centre my artwork around where I can kind of improve my knowledge, essentially. So that's kind of how I've brought art into it, where I'm using things like Zulu beadwork, for example, as some of that is quite prevalent in the culture, and using that in contemporary ways. So looking at the shapes and the colours and how can I, format that into something really modern here, and using that as well, and people look at it as an education, not only for myself but also for other people. So it's really lovely, really, and it's something that I really, really enjoy doing.
You've almost taken the whole interview. But wonderful. So your dad's a pretty artistic person from an artistic background himself.
Yeah.
Whereabouts in South Africa is he from?
Very close by to Durban, if you've heard. Probably about an hour's drive away, so not too far from the main airport there. So yeah, very rural, really close to the beach. It's absolutely beautiful where my dad's from.
Yeah, I've had the privilege of going to South Africa on a couple of occasions. And I love the country, so it's great. You began to share a little bit of how your background has influenced and is still continuing to influence your artistic endeavors. And you mentioned that your art often explores themes related to your cultural identity. Can you just elaborate a little bit more on how this exploration into your heritage manifests itself in the work that you produce?
For me, it mainly starts with, I kind of look at gaps in my own knowledge. I kind of look at what things do I do know, what do I not know. But I think with this project that I'm doing at the moment, this one's really centered around my dad's culture. And it's been in the making for the past year now. And it's very much, I'd say, heavily research-based to start with. So I will go and research and look into, the traditions and, the day-to-day, how things go on, the clothing, the patterns, the designs, all these things that can be linked into a creative way is kind of how I kind of start picking up on that. So beadwork is one thing that I've looked at. There's basket weaving, clay and pottery. So a lot of my exploration at the, last year was very much into artifacts and creative practices there that happen. So I did a lot of pottery. I did a lot of beadwork myself, and hand stitching beads, which is a very, very delicate thing to do, and it took many, many hours to do. And it just submersing myself in that kind of, not almost be like I'm in the space, but more like this is how it's done, and this is how almost complicating these things are. It's different when someone comes back with the gifts brought to you, and you've got earrings and necklaces made out of these really small beads, but just sitting there and doing it myself, it's a long process. So that's kind of how I like to start. I kind of like to put myself in the culture and these creative practices that they have, and kind of have that experience of creating it myself. And then this year is kind of where I've taken that into a more contemporary form. So I've pushed it a lot further in terms of how abstract the work has come. So this is looking more on the patterns and the meanings behind some of the shapes. So there's a lot of triangles, circles in representation of the beads. They're like diamond shapes, hourglass shapes. And I'm kind of taking on these patterns and shapes into a whole different dimension, looking at printing and actually just painting these shapes as is and exploring with some of the colours. So it's very much research at the start, but then I like to kind of take my spin on it, in essentially. But I do like to educate not only myself, but everyone around me, especially in the studio. It's been a really nice experience over the past year to just create this work. And then when we have our, group sessions together, I just really enjoy, being able to talk about that. I'm teaching everybody else something as well as myself.
You just mentioned a studio. So do you have an actual space that you work out of, and where is that?
It's mainly just at uni. So we do have a fairly large studio at Huddersfield University. So they really encourage us, which is really nice, to put our work up. So they always say to us, put your work up in the studio. It's a studio for a reason. Have your work up. Show it off to everybody. When people ask, what's this about? Don't be afraid to let people know, because for all you're teaching someone something. So it's a really nice space, and I really enjoy just being there.
Cool. How much involvement has your dad had in what you're doing on the projects that you're involved in? So
I do ask a lot of questions. I think it'd be wrong if I didn't ask any questions. So I do ask him a lot of questions just in terms of the culture. I do ask a lot of his opinion in the work that I've made, especially over the past year, and just say, what do you think of this? Sometimes before I didn't even say what the project was about, but there was a piece that I did and he said, this reminds me a lot of, Zulu patterns and designs. And I was like, there we go. I know I'm doing a good job then, seeing as you picked it up. So yeah, I do ask for his opinion quite a lot. And in my family as well, it's very heavily creative based. My mum did fashion textiles at Huddersfield Uni. She's very creative as well. Even my brother is very creative. But in the family, I think my mum's always done this. Growing up, she said the minute you're able to hold a pencil or anything of the sort, you start getting, when children start to get a bit more nosy, so it's good to, give them a pencil, give them a notepad and a pen, and just let them do their thing. So we've all got that creative touch in different ways. My dad's got that performing arts, but then my mum's got that physical design work. So it's a really nice combination.
in a way, it's a collective affair,
Yeah.
which is really nice. Yeah. Now you're an advocate for young creatives from underprivileged backgrounds. Can you share with us what some of the specific challenges that you see them facing today in today's society?
The biggest one is recognition. You know, I've seen it many times where I did a workshop actually in the summer not so long ago for a project that I'm involved at the moment. And that was very heavily creative based and quite free for the young people to just get involved in. And just some of the conversations that were had was very much, you know, like, oh, I really enjoy doing things like this. Some of the work that was coming out from, you know, children as young as 9 and 10 were absolutely fantastic. And I feel like we need to kind of push that more, you know, it'd be really nice just for them to have those spaces to be able to create work. And I just feel like recognition is definitely one of those things that they need to encourage them to keep creating, because, you know, art has many benefits. It's not just, you know, it's something that you can enjoy, but I think mentally it has that mental stimulation that I think you need just to be able to, you know, relieve stress and anxiety and things like that. So recognition would be definitely something that is a problem. I believe that they're just not getting recognised for their talents. And I think seeing somebody like me that's creating a lot of work and, you know, trying to get my work out there, you know, I'm really grateful that I'm able to show, like, you know, this is what I'm creating and, you know, don't stop what you're doing and carry on.
Well, what do you feel is the reason why they're not being recognised? You know, is it that they're not encouraged, you know, to really express themselves and develop their skills and their talents, and as well as not having areas, spaces, etc., where they can exhibit this stuff?
Yeah. But I feel, yeah, definitely those two reasons for me, especially with them, just the space, you know, having somewhere where they can go to create this work. Because, you know, I've even been in the struggles where I'm trying to create, you know, massive artworks in the living room or in the bedroom or in the kitchen, you know, and it's a struggle. And it'd just be really nice just for these young people just have that space where they can freely just create the work that they want to do. And I think having that environment is really, really important, just so that they just have that space to just create and have these ideas, let them flow out and just do it as they wish to do so. And again, I feel like, you know, having somebody, you know, that's involved in the arts and especially in the area as well, to be able to push them to do their best, especially if it's something that they want to go down or a path that they want to do later on in life. And
ideally, you'd like for those spaces to be in the areas that they live.
Absolutely.
You know, which would, I believe, help with their artistic endeavours and expression.
Yeah, absolutely.
So you shared a little bit about the projects that you're involved with at the uni, but are there any community projects that you're involved in, especially in those areas that we touched upon in the introduction, that you're really interested in, youth violence and environmental issues? Are there any community projects that you have been involved in or are currently involved in that you can share with us?
A project that had just ended not so long ago, it's called Children's Lives in Changing Places. That was the Huddersfield University researchers had actually been doing this project, and one of the spaces that they were doing it in was Deaton and Bracknell. So that was the two areas that they had that they focused on. It was a pretty large group of children that they had. I think it was around 15, maybe more, but the age was in between 10 and 15 years old. And it just touched on, you know, some of the things mainly things that they loved about where they lived, things that are challenges, things that they believe that, you know, are issues and things that definitely need to change. But what I felt was really important is the children actually came up and said, this is what we feel like needs to change. So it was a really lovely project to be involved in. And artwork was something that they said that they really loved the mural that's, you know, just outside Chestnut Centre. So seeing me as an artist as well at the uni that's also local, they thought it'd be really nice for, you know, for you to come along and get involved in the project. So it was 18 months in total, I believe, and I was probably brought in a little bit halfway, so I was in the project for just over 6 months with the young people. So it was a really lovely project to be involved in, and it was very creative focused as well. So it very led by the young people. So there was a lot of arts involved, a lot of making involved while they was having these discussions as well. So they'd be discussing things about, you know, gang violence and, you know, safety concerns and environmental concerns that they had. But it was a lovely project to be involved in. And the current one is one that I've started, the Environment and Public Art Project. So this is focusing on 2 main locations, so Riddings Road Park and then the Browning Road Shops. So we're looking to create some artwork just to put up, just to make the place look more presentable. From what the young people have said as well, taking the feedback from the previous projects, they've said, you know, they're places that they feel like they'd love to have artwork, especially where they'd be, like the park. But then also Browning Road Shops, they've said, you know, they've been abandoned for so long now that they feel like, could we not just put something up? So I'd love to. So I've been working with young people in the park. So we've literally been doing it just out of the park, going to them instead of having them, you know, come out of somewhere where they feel safe. So we just brought the project to them. We did it in the park. You know, it was a really good turnout. There was many, many kids there just creating work. We had well over 40 pieces of work created. You know, children did multiple pieces of work just on positive things that they loved about where they were from and their area, you know, going out with their friends, playing in the park, and just let them creatively execute that, which was just really, really nice. And, you know, it just shows really the creative touch that we really have in the community amongst young people. And I feel like, you know, just seeing how many young people just showed out for that alone, there was loads, I think there was over 30 kids in the park that day, and just seeing how many were even engaged in the artwork. You know, I had young people that were sat there from 3 o'clock and we finished at 6:30, but they were still painting and drawing and making even while we was packing up, you know. So it just shows that there really is, you know, demand for it. There really is, you know, something there that I feel like we really need to, you know, push onto the young people for them to carry on doing.
That sounds absolutely amazing. Just giving an opportunity for young people to give voice to their voice through art is a really powerful medium, and it's just want to commend you on the excellent work you're doing, and just continue doing what you're doing, and just giving our young people an opportunity to just share the God-given talents that they've definitely got. Now, I understand, as well as being a student and participating in all these projects, you're also a bit of an entrepreneur. You've set up your own social enterprise focused on young people. And what goals do you hope to achieve through the enterprise that you've set up? What's it called? Where's it based?
So it's called Urban Arts Hub. Very, very, very new, really new. And at the moment, it's just me. So it's kind of just what I'm doing, just the creative projects and, you know, building on that. And it's mainly around just how we can use, not even just in art as well, even in music, just how we can use these creative, you know, like painting, drawing, music, dance, how we can use that to, you know, push on young people to not just step away from, you know, the bad crowds, but just that mental stimulation, being able to, you know, relieve of the stress. Boredom is a very big one that I've heard, where they just feel like they've just got nothing to do, so they'll just do silliness. So I just feel like it's just something that we can build on, really. I feel like it's an organisation that will encourage young people to get involved in creative arts, to use those talents that they have, you know, to build a career later down the line. You know, because even with myself, sometimes I even shock myself and think how I've even got to where I am today. But definitely it's just there for the young people, for them to just guide them creatively, then also mentally as well. And I feel like, you know, seeing other young people that are getting involved in these things, you know, that are a little bit older than them, you know, I feel like it's it's an organisation that'll do really, really well. So I'm very looking forward to expanding on things within the next year or so.
All right. So do you have a base anywhere, or is it just?
It's just I'm the moving base, I should say.
Okay. Well, stay tuned. We hope to hear a lot more of how things progress.
Yeah.
And we're here to support you. You know, if you whatever you might need in terms of maybe publicity and letting people know, then we'd be happy to do that for you. But I can see that you're a really busy individual because you're balancing university, your projects, your individual artistic endeavors, and that can be pretty challenging, just those things. So how do you manage to stay focused and motivated with all these responsibilities that you have, which you're juggling?
Sometimes I think I do cope, but then I don't cope, but then I do. But it's very much because it's something I'm really passionate about. I really enjoy art in all forms, that I feel like just that alone just pushes me to just carry on and keep going, because I can see the impact. I've seen it already, just glimpses of the impact that this has had on young people already. And we've not even started yet.
Cool.
So I know big things will absolutely come out of this, and I feel like it'll have an absolutely massive impact on the community, especially bringing, you know, creative arts. I'd love to bring creative arts permanently in Deaton. You know, it'd be lovely to have just a space where young people can create artwork, and I feel like it'll have a really, really big impact. So just that alone, knowing that this will have, you know, a really big impact on the community. So that's why I carry on doing what I'm doing.
No, I just want to commend you on your enthusiasm, your passion, and your drive. You're doing a wonderful job, and just continue doing what you're doing. And I'm sure it's infectious. I can feel it, and I'm even as old as I am, I'm stimulated to see, and I'll be passing on the messages to other young people that I know to get involved with the projects that you're sharing with us. Well, my final question for you this evening is, looking ahead then, what are your aspirations, or your main aspirations for the future, especially with your art and as it relates to community engagement, particularly in 2024, and there's not long to go, but maybe looking ahead into 2025?
So for my artwork in itself, so my practice as just my creative practice, I do want to just continue to just keep making. I think one thing I've learned this term, being in my final year, is making doesn't stop. And it pretty much has been. Making doesn't stop since the start of September. So I'll be continuing to make work and just seeing how far I can push this. It'd be lovely to get in some galleries, you know, try and get some exhibitions done next year in terms of my work, just trying to push my artwork out there a little bit more. That's definitely one of my immediate goals. I know we will be having an art exhibition with my university at some point next year in 2025. So that'll showcase, you know, all of our artwork on our course. So that'll be something that'll be coming next year. But in terms of Urban Arts Hub and the projects and stuff, as soon as I possibly can, I would love to have workshops going on regularly in the community. You know, whether it's free form, whether we just, you know, create artwork and just do absolutely anything, you know, for a couple of hours, or, you know, we have structured workshops where we might do printing one day, we might paint one day, you know, we might, you know, do something collaborative, do something together. But I absolutely want to be having workshops, which is definitely something I'm, you know, working on and thinking about behind the scenes at the moment. But that is definitely one of the big goals that I'm wanting to achieve, hopefully by the end of this year, but definitely in 2025. Having that space for young people to create is something that I want to happen really, really soon. Great.
Well, it's been an absolute inspiration having you here today, Rio. So thank you so much for joining us here on the African Descendants Forum. We've heard from Rio Duma, whose passion for the arts and dedication to community upliftment are genuinely inspiring. And as she embarks on new projects aimed at empowering young people, we look forward to seeing how her work continues to foster creativity and address important social issues. Remember, change is possible, and individuals like Rio are leading the way. We appreciate your time and hope that you'll continue to support artists like Rio who are making a difference in their community. If you want to find out more about Rio's projects and her arts hub, please see the details which we'll put up on screen. But for now, thanks for joining us today. Goodbye.